Canned dog food invites you to television's original Zoo Parade. Brought to you direct from the world-famous Lincoln Park Zoo in Chicago. Hi there. I'm Jim Hurlbut, and I'm here at Chicago's Lincoln Park Zoo, which is operated by the Chicago Park District for the benefit of people everywhere. This is our 74th Zoo Parade program this afternoon, and we're awfully glad that you and your homes across the country can be with us again. Our program today deals with unusual and beautiful waterfowl and upland game birds. This bird right here is of particular interest to hunters at this season of the year. And of course, the man to tell us all about it is Marlon Perkins, the director of the Lincoln Park Zoo.
Hello there. Steady there, boy. I'm glad you could join us again today, because this is, as Jim has said, one of the most important upland game birds of North America. But he didn't always live in North America. This ring-necked pheasant originated in Asia, somewhere near China, and was brought over to Europe from there and established as a game bird in many parts of Europe and in England. And from that part of the world was brought over to North America, where he's established now in the northern part of the United States and in Canada as one of the finest game birds. He's an introduced bird that has done very well with the climate here. He has this unusually long tail and many other characteristics. This is the cock bird, the male, bright red around his face, a light-colored bill, a white ring around his neck, and, oh, the colors of the rainbow around his neck there, purple and green. This wonderful fall plumage color all over his body, clear down to this very characteristic long tail of the cock bird. Let's contrast this cock bird now with that of the hen. The hen, George, do you want to take this? George Irving, you take that, and hold him back there. And right next to some of that natural foliage, we've set up a screen here of native natural foliage, the fall leaves. And on your left, you see this cock bird, which is much more brilliantly marked than is the hen. And the hen fits in much better against that foliage, and there's a very good reason for that. Because, as in most of nature, the female of the species is the one, the most important of the sexes. And this one has to lay the eggs and to hatch the eggs and to look after the young one. The cock bird is the sentinel, the one who is the lookout, the one who takes care of all of the danger and who would himself get in line for any danger that may be about, any predatory animals or man. They're a rapid-flying bird. They live mostly on the ground. They run very well. But as you see them against this foliage here, it's easy to see that it's the male bird that is the most brilliantly marked. And while the hen bird, quiet as she is, and just a little warm there today because you can see that in her throat moving back and forth there. But those birds are hard to see when they're in nature. Well, that is one of the finest of the imported upland game birds of North America. But one of the native North American game birds, and one of the finest of those, is this bobwhite quail. This bobwhite quail is a native North American bird, and getting in his way right there alongside of him, as a size comparison, is a tiny little button quail from the Philippine Islands. This little button quail would scarcely be much of a game bird, because of his size. You see, scarcely a third the size of our bobwhite, and the bobwhite isn't an unusually large bird, but in the fall of the year, the bobwhite lives in coveys. They don't get too far north in the United States because they can't find food in the heavy snows. But in the middle part of the most of the North America, or in the United States at least, these bobwhites living in coveys of 15 to 30 individuals are, when they take off from the ground, there is a terrific whir, and even an experienced hunter sometimes gets quite a thrill out of that. The bird, however, that is one of the most wary of all of the North American game birds is our native wild turkey. When the Pilgrims first landed on our coast and had their first Thanksgiving, this is the bird that they ate. And even today, this bird is a wild bird in many parts of the United States, and in areas where it once was hunted out and exterminated, it has now been reintroduced, so that this turkey of the United States is an exceedingly wary bird. It has very keen eyesight and exceptional hearing. It runs rapidly on the ground. It flies quickly and dramatically away. It's a hard bird to approach, so it's a bird that is very difficult to hunt. It lives in the deep forest for the most part.
Marlon, why is he named the turkey?
Well, Jim, that is a misnomer, actually. When he finally reached Europe, there was some misinformation as to where he came from, and some of the people that brought him in there in the early days said that he had come in from Turkey.
Well, that's certainly an interesting thing to know about this wonderful game bird. But right now, I've got something of interest to pass along, too. So, folks, if you'll watch and listen closely, you'll see and hear the story of Mike and Ike.
Brother Mike and I are neighbors. We're twins, too. But you'd never guess it. Mike is healthy and happy, and I'm a wreck. In the beginning, we looked alike and played alike, and you couldn't tell us apart. But as we grew older, something new was added to my brother. He grew stronger and stronger, and I grew weaker and weaker. He grew a thick, glossy coat of hair that the girls were just crazy about. Finally, I asked him the secret. Was I surprised? The only difference was that his master bought him kennel ration, packed with lean red meat and containing all the known dog health vitamins and minerals. Now, can you tell which twin eats kennel ration? We both do.
Friends, that certainly is the truth. Only a healthy dog has fun, and kennel ration has what it takes to be happy. Plenty of lean red meat, healthy chunks of U.S. government-inspected horse meat, plus all the known dog health vitamins, all the vital minerals. Say, that goes for cats, too. They also thrive on kennel ration. So, folks, keep your pets meat happy and feed them economical kennel ration every day, because it's America's first canned dog food. Now, Marlon, what's next on the zoo parade?
Well, Jim, we've been talking about some of the upland game birds, and they are wonderful hunting, and there are many, many people who have marvelous times hunting them. But I think the group of birds that actually form most of the pleasure for sportsmen in the fall of the year are the ducks and the geese. The most colorful of these ducks and geese is our wood duck, which is a native of almost the United States. He does get into Canada, but he spends most of his time in this country. And he's a brilliantly marked duck. You see the drake in the background there and the contrasting markings of his head with a long crest, which is now folded down. He can elevate that crest behind his head even more than the crest of the female because it's longer. There's red around his bill and around his eyes, and strong contrast between the white markings of the face and the very jet black there. There are wing bars and a reddish breast, and they live in trees. They're a tree duck. They nest, actually, in the trees. So that these wood duck are the most colorful of all of the ducks in the United States. Another small duck that is found in this country, however, is the green-winged teal. It has a very rapid wing beat when it's flying and has been clocked at 100 miles per hour in the air. It lives around the sloughs and the swamps and the muskeg of Canada. It migrates to Central America in the wintertime, as far south as that anyhow. Here again, the drake is more brilliantly marked than is the hen. With the markings around his head there, they both have the brilliant green marking in the wing, which gives them their name of green-winged teal. Excuse me, this is a small duck, but a duck of the swamp and the marshes, and a duck that is very rapid of wing and quick of flight, and a hard duck to hit in the air. But they're not all of the small ducks. There is another small duck that favors the open water more, and that is the lesser scaup duck. The male is more or less of a black and white duck, and the female is more tan and brown. But these ducks that live mostly on the open water feed largely, or about 40-50% on vegetable matter, so they're not so good to eat as some of the other ducks. Sometimes their flesh has a fishy flavor. Well, in order to see these ducks on the open water, let's take a look at some film of these ducks as they are resting on the open water and in a large flock. The head of the male is black and his sides are white. The female is brown with a white band around the base of the bill. The sculps spend much of their time on the water, diving for mollusks and other water life. Sculps obtain most of their food by diving, sometimes to a considerable depth. The mallard duck is one of the largest and most widely distributed of our ducks. The drake with his brilliant metallic green head and dark red breast is indeed a handsome bird. Mallards are wary, wise, and hardy. They're easy to domesticate, and they breed well in captivity. The mallard is the wild ancestor of nearly all breeds of domestic ducks. In captivity, mallards sometimes pool their broods. They take good care of their young, too. Ducklings are able to swim as soon as they're hatched. How gracefully they move over the water. The ducklings seek their food along the banks of ponds and rivers. They usually feed by tipping themselves in order to reach the food in shallow water. Mallards eat both animal and plant food. They raise large families and thus remain plentiful, although they're hunted a great deal by sportsmen. Their range covers practically all the northern hemisphere, so that they're well known to the people of Europe and Asia, as well as those of North America. And now I'd like to have you see the mallard ducks that we have right here, holding them in our hands. Here is, against this wonderful background of natural foliage, as Phil Byron holds the drake and Roy Huff holds the hen. Here's the drake with his white ring neck and the more brilliant of the two. And you notice again here how the hen blends into the camouflage of the background of this habitat setting. Here we have the hen almost disappearing in front of your eyes against the natural leaves that we've set up here behind these behind this cage here. And that's for the same reason that the pheasant, it's important for the hen to be dull and drab and blend in with her surroundings. So it is with this mallard, because she's the one, again, who raises the brood and cares for the young ones. And they're one of the most magnificent of our game birds. They breed in large quantities all over North America and have become thoroughly, well, they're just a part of our life. And anyone who goes hunting in the fall, particularly in the Mississippi Valley flightway of these birds, this is the bird that is the background, the basis of the fall hunting season, the duck hunting season of the mid-continental United States, but they're found all over this country. And they do have a much wider distribution as well. So here we have one of the best of the most common of the waterfowl of this country. But that's not the only one of the small waterfowl. You take the redhead, for example. This fellow here that is decreasing in numbers now, largely because of agriculture and droughts that have cut into his natural nesting site in many parts of the country. These birds fly about 42 miles per hour. They're not as fast flying as some of the other ducks, but they're a wonderful medium-sized duck and have a fine reputation among the hunters of the midsection, at least, of the United States. Then there are the pintails, which are wonderful ducks. They're one of the fastest flying ducks and the duck that has the largest distribution of any duck in the world. And these ducks, this pintail again, where the drake has the white markings around the head and throat, breast, while the hen is much more drab in color, and that again is for the very same reason. But let's take a look at some of these birds on the water. Let's take a close-up of these birds in flight and see how they operate in the air. We obtained some magnificent film from the Conservation Department of the state of Illinois, and some of this is slow-motion film. I'm sure you're going to enjoy seeing that. This is the canvasback. His widely webbed feet are used for a lot more than just paddling. And these are the redheads, the ducks that are closely related to the canvasbacks, but they have larger and rounder heads and much shorter bills than their cousins. Sometimes the self-starter seems just a little bit cold. Both the redhead and canvasback ducks breed as far north as Alaska, and in winter they migrate as far south as Mexico and the West Indies. This is a pintail and her brood. She seems very proud of her large family. The drake is an attractive bird, and although the pintails are the shyest of all ducks, they're probably the most widely distributed. The fast and spectacular takeoff of a pintail drake is certainly a sight to see. The pintail feathers give him his name. The shovel drake is a handsome duck. He gets his name from his broad shovel-shaped bill. Isn't this beautiful poetry of motion? The bullpate is sometimes called the American widgeon. He takes off with a hop, skip, and a jump. Boy, he literally climbs into the air. As his flight progresses, he gradually draws up his landing gear. Like most of our other ducks, the bald-pate is a great traveler. They may spend the nesting season in Alaska and go as far south as Central America or the West Indies in the winter. In the Atlantic, they have been known to travel as far as Bermuda, to the Azores, and to the British Isles. In the Pacific, to the Hawaiian Islands, or even to Japan. They're very shy birds, and when alarmed, fly off with a constant melodious whistling call.
Well, when you're talking about ducks and waterfowl, reminds us that this is the hunting season. So right now, hunters everywhere are getting set to hit the trail. And among the prized possessions of many of them are their wonderful hunting dogs. And you can be sure that nothing is spared to keep them healthy and happy. And that's why so many hunting dogs are kennel ration fed dogs. Their masters give them kennel ration day in and day out the whole year round. Because kennel ration contains just what a dog needs every single day. Lean, red meat. U.S. government inspected horse meat. But whether yours is a hunting dog or a house pet, or if you have a cat, kennel ration is their dish. As I said, it's made of choice cuts of lean, red meat. U.S. government inspected horse meat. Plus all the known dog health vitamins and all those vital minerals. It makes for a thick, glossy coat, a sturdy, healthy bones, and a happy disposition. Another thing you like about kennel ration is its convenience. It's ready to serve as is. Just dish it out, mix it up a little bit, and then stand back. You see what I mean? Dogs really go for kennel ration. By the way, the kennel bar he's eating from is something you ought to get for your dog. It's made of heavy-gauge plastic with 2 bowls for both food and water. It can't be tipped, and it's easy to wash. If you'd like one of these handy kennel bars, and you might expect to pay up to $3.50 for one like it. Just mail $1 and 4 kennel ration labels to Kennel Products, Box 5339, Chicago 77, Illinois. That's Kennel Products, Box 5339, Chicago 77, Illinois. And remember, if you love your dog, feed him the lean red meat he needs and craves. Keep your dog meat happy with kennel ration. Over 2 million cans sold every week. That's America's first canned dog food. And now, Marlon, what's our next animal guest on the Zoo Parade?
Well, Jim, the next animal that I'd like to talk about today is a coot. That is a native North American bird, and while they're not shot everywhere in the United States or not hunted everywhere, there are some sections of the United States where these coot or mud hens form a very important part of the hunting season. They're a marsh bird. They don't have web feet, but they have webbing on the toes of their feet. And those marsh hens in some parts of the United States are a very important part of the hunting season. But the bird, I think, that is the prize of all hunters in the fall is the Canada goose. This Canada goose is, as you've seen here live, is one of the finest of all the birds you could get. But let's take a look at this Canada goose as he is on the water, and let's look again at some more of that wonderful film and see something about this bird. The Canada goose is one of the best known of all our water birds. In the early spring, the Canada geese leave their winter homes and begin the long journey to the north. Over hills and valleys, they wing their way along the main migration routes to their principal nesting grounds in northern Canada, where the goslings are raised. And this map shows you how far north and how far south they travel. No animal is more watchful of its young than the Canada goose. Father and mother guard their goslings constantly. Their parental devotion is just outstanding. Either parent will die in defense of the family. Goslings can swim and walk as soon as they're hatched. They hunt for food on land as well as in water. Geese eat only plant food, and they're especially fond of grains. You often see them in the cornfields in the fall of the year. It's easy to identify the Canada geese because of their size and coloring. Their heads and necks are jet black with a white crescent on the throat and face. Geese are always on the alert. You see how watchful they are? They have keen eyesight. All of this helps to keep them out of danger. It's well that this is so, for the Canada goose is a highly esteemed game bird. And now for some more of that wonderful slow motion. This female is on her nest. When she leaves to get food, an opportunity presents itself to get a closer look at her family. And what a nest full of funny little goslings she has. You notice how they're all tucked in with the goose down all around them? The Canada goose is a big bird, weighing from 8 to 11 pounds. Occasionally, an old gander may weigh as much as 14 pounds. In spite of his powerful wings, which sometimes reach a spread of 3.5 feet, the Canada goose doesn't get into the air very rapidly. Once in flight, he's powerful and a tireless traveler. There's no more thrilling sight than a great flock of migrating geese silhouetted against the clouds of an autumn sky. Canada geese mate for life and don't change partners every year as some birds do. They are always a devoted pair, and only death separates them. And now to the beautiful snow goose, which is sometimes called the white brant or the white goose. When a large flock of snow geese comes winging in, it's a rare, rare sight to behold. And now, let's take a look at our snow goose right here in our cage. Our lesser snow goose that is found in the middle part of the United States, while the greater snow goose comes down the eastern shore more often than the lesser snow. They live in enormous flocks, and in the southern part of the United States where they winter, they sometimes descend by flocks of hundreds and hundreds. But Jim, while we've seen many of these wonderful wild birds today, I'd like to show you a spectacular and very, very interesting personality. I'd like to show you Siwash, a cross between a mallard duck and, I think, a Pekin duck.
Well, he's even more than that, I think, Marlon. He's a
Gus,
Marine, too.
Yeah, he is. Gus, can you put Siwash right down on the table here? Hello, boy. Hello, Siwash. How do you do? Can you come back here and say hello to everyone? Huh?
It's been a long time since I've seen Siwash.
Jim, tell us something about Siwash.
Well, Siwash, as I said, is a Marine. He comes from New Zealand, though, and down there his owner, Corporal Fagan, won him in a raffle. He didn't want to leave him behind, so he took Siwash right up to Saipan with him, and Siwash actually got into the fighting because he cleaned up on some of the Japanese roosters on the island. Then he came back to the United States, and he lived the life of Riley and sold a lot of war bonds around the United States when he went on tour. And he's a wonderful guy and a good Marine, too, I might add.
Yeah.
Also a good propagandist.
Yeah, well, he's a wonderful duck, too, and we're awfully happy to have him now in our collection. Fagan has presented this bird to our Lincoln Park Zoo.
Well, it's been a wonderful trip to the Zoo Parade. We've seen some wonderful animals, and we'll be back next week at this same time to the Lincoln Park Zoo, another Zoo Parade presented by Kennel Ration, America's first canned dog food. And at that time, Marlon Perkins is going to tell us something about some of the small predatory animals and how they live. And we hope that you'll all be with us. And in the meantime, this is Jim Hurlbut reminding you to send your 4 Kennel Ration labels and $1 to Kennel Products, Box 5339, Chicago 77, Illinois, for your dog's kennel bar. And now remember that a dog's life can be a wonderful life if you feed that pet of yours Kennel Ration, made with the lean red meat he needs and craves. Yes, keep your dog or cat meat happy with Kennel Ration.